Hello and welcome to the 3-time award-winning Tough Girl podcast, which is all about motivating and inspiring you while increasing the amount of female role models in the media. I'm your host, Sarah Williams. If you love adventure, challenge, and hearing from women who share their stories and provide top tips and advice to help you take on your own personal challenges, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. New episodes go live every Tuesday at 7 a.m. UK time, with bonus episodes happening on a Thursday. You can support the Tough Girl mission by signing up as a patron by visiting Patreon, patreon.com/Tough Girl Podcast. Keep listening until the very end as I share more information about what's going on with me, with Tough Girl challenges, give shout outs, and recommend other Tough Girl podcast episodes. More information can be found at toughgirlchallenges.com. This is a very exciting Tough Girl podcast episode, and also possibly one of the largest Tough Girl podcast episodes that I've done, because I'm actually speaking to 3 incredible tough girls who have all shared their individual stories on the Tough Girl podcast. But I'm going to get each of them to introduce themselves to you all. But we've got Rosemary Brown, Tori James, and Jo Bradshaw back on the Tough Girl podcast, which is amazing. So, Rosemary, I'd love for you just to tell everybody just a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and where you're currently based. And then we'll go to Tori and then to Jo, just so everyone's got an idea of who everybody is and what everybody does.
Oh, great. Thank you very much, Sarah. It's great to be with 4 tough girls at the same time. How fab is that? My name is Rosemary Brown. I'm a journalist and a writer. And for the last 10 or 20 years, I've kind of made it my focus to draw attention to women adventurers who have been forgotten. I think it's really important that we know about them, maybe now more than ever, because we really do need role models. So it's been a wonderful adventure for me to find out about these women. And I've written one book, as you know, Sarah, about Nellie Bly, who circled the world in 72 days faster than Phileas Fogg. And now I'm working on one about women who have had mountains named after them. Not because I believe in naming mountains and, in fact, might prefer indigenous names, but it's one way to find some of the most unbelievably courageous women who not many people know about. And of course, one of them is Junko Tabei.
Oh, and we are definitely going to be talking about Junko Tabei a little bit, well, actually throughout the whole of this podcast episode. Tori, do you want to introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit more about who you are, what you do?
Hi, Sarah. It's great to be back with you. I'm Tori James. I'm the first Welsh woman to climb Mount Everest, and I've also done a number of other record-breaking expeditions over the years. I'm a mum. I've got 2 children, which is something that's happened since I've last spoken to you. I live in Cardiff, and I'm a motivational speaker, and my work takes me all over the UK and overseas as well. And it's just so exciting in 2025 to be working on a new project which is just growing legs all of the time. And in celebration of the 50th anniversary of the first female ascent of Everest, one of the things I'm going to be doing is making a podcast, and it's called First Females. It's launching today. So this is something that I've had as an idea for quite some time, and I can't believe that it's now a reality, and I can talk more a bit about that a bit later.
Oh, fantastic. You know, I'm all for women starting podcasts and getting more women's stories out there, and especially, you know, celebrating this incredible anniversary. And last but not least, Jo Bradshaw. Tell everybody a little bit more about who you are, Jo.
Hi, Sarah. Nice to be back again. Yes, hi, everybody. My name is Jo Bradshaw, and I'm also an Everest summiteer. I summited the mountain in 2016, which was my second attempt. I was on Everest at Camp 1 on the mountain in 2015 when the earthquake struck. So that's a whole different story. And work-wise, I'm an expedition leader. a leadership development coach, a motivational speaker, and I also teach the Duke of Edinburgh's award, the expedition skills. I have just come back from Nepal, having led an expedition of which Tori was part of my team, and Rosemary, to Yala Peak, which is a mountain that Junko Tabei climbed 2 years after her Everest success. She climbed that in 1977. So it was an amazing expedition, which we'll talk more about in a minute.
So individual connections. I obviously know all of you, and you've all been on the Tough Girl podcast. And I think what's also great is I've actually met you all face to face. I've only met Rosemary once at the Women's Outdoor. No, what is it called? Women's Outdoor Expo? Yes, Women's Outdoor Expo. I've met Tori came and met me at the end when I finished walking the Wales Coast Path. And Joe, I feel as though I've met you a few times at various places like National Outdoor Expo and the Women's Adventure Expo. But I'd love to know about your individual connections. So, Tori and Joe, when did you first meet each other?
So we met when we were presenting gold awards at the Duke of Edinburgh's award at St James's Palace, and we think it was 2016 because I would have summited Everest by then, and that's the only time we've met. But we have been in contact since on various social medias and sort of promoting each other's expeditions and what have you. So yeah, it was a joy when Tori sent me an email in September saying, "Can I join your Yala Peak expedition?" And the answer was most definitely yes.
And Rosemary, have you met Tori and Joe?
Yes, well, I met Joe and was introduced to Junko Tabei at the History of Women in Exploration conference that we put on, I guess it was in 2018. And I was so excited to learn about Junko. And then when I was putting my book idea together, I found out that she does have mountains named after her on the planet of Pluto. And I thought, great, so I'm going to do Junko in my book. And I got in touch with Joe, and we had a nice interview, and she told me about Tori. And so I met Tori through Joe, mostly until relatively recently, always on Zoom. But Tori invited me to come to Wales and climb Sugarloaf Peak with her, which was a pure joy. So that's how I know Joe, and through Joe, I know Tori. And I feel very, very lucky to have them as friends and fellow climbers.
Tori, I'd love to come back to you and, first females celebrating this incredible achievement, the first female ascent of Mount Everest. When did you realize the date, and when did you start thinking, actually, do you know what? Yeah, this is important. We need to mark this occasion.
Yeah, it was over a year ago that I realized the date. But the thing that struck me more than that was the fact that when I was embarking on my own ascent of Everest 18 years ago, back in 2007, I did not know about Junko. I did not write about Junko. She didn't appear in any of my sponsorship literature. She just didn't feature. And, why? Why wasn't she there? Why didn't we know about her? Thanks actually to Joe and some of the early blog posts that Joe has put out on her blog, and how I came across her plans to go to Yala Peak this year. People have been starting to mention a bit more. And the thought that I had was, well, wouldn't it be great to know who the other first females are from other countries around the world? And on a personal note, I thought, wouldn't it be cool just to have a chat with them? And then I thought, well, I can't just have a chat and keep it to myself. I should share it. And that's how the idea for the First Females podcast came around. And so I started, tentatively investigating who's who and are they still alive? Because, of course, sadly, Junko passed away in 2016. But there are a surprising number of people that I can still talk to and will be on the lineup for the podcast. It's been a journey in itself to put this together, a daunting one as well as an exciting one. The first episode is with Rebecca Stevens, who is, of course, the first British woman to climb Everest and someone who was an inspiration to me with her own story, and who I think certainly gave me some of that confidence to kind of launch my own attempt.
Interesting enough, I've never had her on the Tough Girl podcast. And it just makes me think, I'm coming up to like 800 women's stories that I've shared, because this will be the 10th year of the Tough Girl podcast. And what it goes to show is that there are still so many women's stories out there. Like, I have not even scratched the surface. And this is trying to be, really focused in on women and women's challenges. And Joe, I know that you're an expedition leader. Tell us more about am I saying, is it Yala or Yala Peak?
As far as I know, it's Yala Peak. Yeah, I came up with the idea 2 years ago, actually, because I wanted to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the earthquake, which was this year. And I also wanted to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Junko's climb or summit of Everest. And so I did a bit of research about other mountains that she had climbed in Nepal, and knowing that Langtang village was destroyed in the earthquake and Yala Peak is in the Langtang Valley. So put two and two together. And originally the expedition was going to be a remake of a D.O.V. expedition I led. I took 6 D.O.V. gold students to Everest Base Camp when Rolf and I went and climbed Everest in 2015. Well, that was the first attempt. So I wanted to recreate that D.O.V. vibe. Unfortunately, it didn't catch the interest of any students. I had 2 applications. So I went back to Adventurous You, who were putting on the expedition for me. And I said, can we turn it into a commercial expedition? And I want it to be all female. And Sue, who's a brilliant friend, said, of course, yes. And it then turned into this incredible team of 13 women. And I never expected it to be, I expected it to be amazing. I didn't expect it to be I'm still stuttering about it, actually, because it's still really so in my forefront of my mind. I never expected it to be as amazing as it was. And I might get quite emotional about it because it was incredible. I had such a wonderful team, and Sue from Adventurous You came along and documented our expedition and the stories of the ladies who were trekking with us. Most of them were friends of mine or who had climbed with me before, or I knew them from social media. So it was such a wonderful group.
And Rosemary, you were part of that group as well. And I'd love to hear more about your thoughts of heading out to Nepal to take on this peak, to take on this challenge, to climb a mountain that Juno had climbed previously. What was that like for you?
It's beyond description. I've already learned a lot from Junko and from Joe and from Tori, but I knew about the expedition back in September and I really wanted to go, but my book deadline was June and the trek was in April. So I thought there is no way I can go. And I was struggling with it for months. And finally in March, I guess, I spoke to my husband, David, who spoke to my daughter, Acadia. Acadia got on the phone and said, Mommy, you have to do this trek. And I said, yep, Acadia, you're right. And I called up Joe and I said, Joe, would I have your blessing? Do you think I can do it? And Joe said, yes, you have the tenacity to do it. So for me, it's been huge, absolutely huge, because the last really big mountain I climbed was Kilimanjaro 13 years ago. Also, I am a woman of an advanced age, but that does make a slight difference. But our group ranged from the age of 29 to 71. So it was a lovely spread of women. For me, each day was special. Joe kindly, and with the blessing of the rest of the group, Joe arranged for us to leave an hour before on summit day. So we left at 2 a.m. to get to the summit to give me a bit of a head start. Well, actually, so I didn't fall too far behind, I think. And we got there first, and we followed the moon and then daybreak. And then we're on the top of a mountain that at one stage I thought I might not get to. So you can tell for me, I could be emotional too, because for me, it was a real revelation, and it was a confirmation of something that I know, but I sometimes forget, that if you put yourself out there, the universe will help you achieve what you want to do. The universe being your friends, your determination, your reasons for doing it. And so I feel very gratified that that belief that I've always held really came through for me this time. But with a lot of help from my friends, and they'll tell you they helped me a lot. And it was a wonderful, wonderful, life-changing experience.
Oh, thank you for sharing that, Rosemary. I can hear like the passion in your voice as well, but also just, do you know, making that trek work for you, setting off
Yeah.
a few hours before, things like that really do make a big difference. And to be honest, makes it more inclusive for everyone. And Tori, how was it for you being back out in Nepal? When was the last time you'd been over to Nepal?
Yeah, it was a very special trip for that reason, Sarah. I hadn't returned to Nepal in the 18 years since my Everest ascent. So, I mean, from the moment we stepped off the plane in Kathmandu, I was struck by, the smell of the city. I mean, it's a strange thing to say, but it took me right back to where I was in 2007 with all of that fear and apprehension of what lay ahead. But of course, this time embarking on an incredible expedition with 15 women. Yala Peak is 5,550 meters, so not near the summit of Everest, but nevertheless, you're going to be affected by the altitude. And it was a great reminder that you can do all the training that you like, but there's no fast track to get to altitude. You've got to go slowly. And as a team, I think we did that brilliantly in terms of acclimatization. At Yala Base Camp, I just felt at home. And of course, for this expedition, we were there for just 2 days. I wanted it to go on forever. I wanted Yala Peak to Base Camp to be my home and to stay there and to go off and mount different expeditions to the surrounding peaks. But it was just Yala Peak on this particular time. And we were blessed with incredible conditions on summit day. It included a short, rocky ascent to the summit. And in fact, we wouldn't have been able to fit all of our team members on the top had we all reached the summit at exactly the same time. It's just a very small, rocky outcrop covered in prayer flags, as you can imagine. And, on this day when we're celebrating Junko's ascent back in 1975, one of the things that she said when she got to the summit of Everest was, "Here is the summit. I don't have to climb anymore." And I think whatever mountain you're climbing, you get that sense of, yes, it's downhill from here. But of course, the downhill is often more challenging than the ascent, as we found out on Yala with its rocky, loose terrain for most of summit day.
Junko is a woman whose story has not been hidden, I'd say, but maybe it's just not sort of maybe acknowledged. And Joe, I know that you read her book, Honoring High Places. And I'd love for you to share maybe just some of the moments from that book that really connected with you, especially being an Everest summiteer, being an expedition leader, being a woman who climbs mountains.
It was really interesting when I first read the book, because it's a wonderful story of, and that resilience is quite an overused word, but her tenacity from very young, being quite an ill child, and her family suffered quite a bit from pneumonia and other chest infections. So she wasn't exactly the best candidate to become a mountaineer. And it was actually her teacher, Mr. Watanabe, who encouraged her to go and climb her first small peak at 10 years old called Nasudake, he introduced her to the wonders of the outdoors and how restorative the outdoors and fresh air and being just sort of out in the wilderness can be. And then she just gradually went from there and became a pioneer in getting a women's climbing group together, because back in Japan in the sort of 50s and 60s, that was definitely not the thing. So even though mountaineering was becoming more popular, female mountaineers and climbers were still very, particularly in Japan, were very, very in the minority. And she's like, no, actually, I want to go and do it. I know I'm good at it. Without being egotistical, she knew she had a talent. So how can I make it happen? And that's what I love about her spirit and her legacy. I kind of think when I'm doing things now, it's like, what would Junko do? How would she make this happen? And when she was putting the Everest expedition together, which was an all-female team, I remember she had quite a few women say to her, wow, Everest, I would love to go, but. And she said, I found it difficult to hear people crush their dreams with the word but. And I know on our expedition, we definitely kicked the butt out of the expedition, because there were so many people that could have said that for Yala Peak. And actually, we had 13 amazing women on there who said, no, I am going to do it. Whether I think I'm capable or not, I will go and see. And that's what I love about Junko's legacy, is that she's left that sort of thinking of, well, let's give it a go, because what's the worst that can happen? You know, I reach my summit rather than the summit, and wherever my summit is, that's still a massive achievement. You know, you were saying about the sort of forgotten in history or hidden in history or not even talked about. And it's really interesting when I talk to other female or male summiteers or mountaineers, and also Junko was the first woman to climb this or complete the 7 summits, and I've just completed the 7 summits myself. And people don't know that either. So I think what we're trying to achieve, and I can't speak for Tori and Rosemary, but I think we're on the same page, is to get her name out there more and to allow people to feel what we're feeling, that her legacy is so important. And, you know, what can we achieve by doing our Junko journeys? Where will that take us?
Yeah. And Rosemary, you know, you obviously have just been on a journey over in Nepal. Magical things for you that happened on that trek, you know, those magical moments that really stand out for you that you're going to carry with you. You know, I'd love for you to share some of those moments.
Well, luckily we all shared them together, but I guess the first magical moment is when I looked back on the path and I saw someone who totally resembled Junko Tabei. And I said, Joe, look, Junko's coming. And we met 2 wonderful Japanese trekkers who are now our friends. And we kept bumping into them, and we were able to actually introduce their own Junko Tabei to them. And now they're fans as well. Another magical thing that happened is that I don't know if you know Leo Holding, but he is a fantastic, well-known mountaineer and alpinist. When we were on our way to base camp, so we were going up and up and up and up, and we didn't see anybody for a long time. Who comes walking down from base camp but Leo and his lovely daughter, Freya? And they were on a family trek. They took the year off. And so, although it was amazing to meet him, and I mean, how does that happen? Nee, 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 nee. Anyway, on top of all that, he said, what are you doing here? And we said, we're here to honor Junko Tabei. And he said, I met her. He said, I knew her. She was wonderful. She was great. She was genuine. And he had only good things to say about her. So I thought that was pretty amazing. And maybe the third highlight would be what Tori already mentioned. The day before we were to summit, it rained, which created snow, which made the mountains even more beautiful. And so the day that we summited, the weather could not have in any way been any better. And as I said, we saw daybreak. And then when we got down, we discovered that later the temperatures the next day dropped to minus 23, and there were high winds on the ridge, which would have meant we couldn't have gone. We would not have been able to make that climb. So I like to think that either Junko was either with us or she was watching us and making sure that everything went well, because her messages are so important to us, that one step at a time, you will get to the top, whatever your top is.
Tori, what would you say are the lessons that you've learned from Junko?
I mean, her positive attitude shines through. We were incredibly fortunate to be able to speak to some of her family and friends recently, which was certainly a pinch me moment. We spoke to her son, her husband, one of her best friends who was also a member of that 1975 expedition. And at that time, women were expected to be base camp managers, they explained, to take care of the team's health, not necessarily to go for the summit. So that determination at a time when there were no role models before them, was quite something. Setsuko Kitamura, explained that they believed that they could do it. And it was like, where did that belief come from? It was this, I think, collective effort between the women. They were unstoppable. And, Setsuko explained that they didn't think about failing. I don't think, failure was, ever something that they thought about. So, she was really prepared to do something different, go against the mold, defy the stereotypes of the time, create all of that team, forge their own path. And of course, supported by her husband, Masanobu. It was Rebecca Stevens on that call, who asked him, did he think that he was any different in the support that he was able to give as a husband. And he didn't. He just thought, this is something that my wife, Junko, wants to do. And this is me. And I'm going to support her to do that. And then she obviously went on to sort of, unknowingly change perceptions for working women and what women could do. She never set out to be the first. So her whole story is just incredible. And Setsuko also explained that the encouragement that she gave to the members of her team was second to none. And, her messages were really ones of don't hesitate, don't overthink, go ahead, and that life is full of trial and error. And, you're going to get things right and you're going to get things wrong. And for me, I think that's a great philosophy to live with and to take forward.
So the 16th of May is the date, and with the hashtag My Junko Journey, I believe you're each doing something to celebrate that day. Would you like to share what you're going to be doing on that day, Jo?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this and how high I would like to get to be physically. And I live in Wiltshire and it's fairly flat. So I Googled the highest point in Wiltshire, and the highest point in Wiltshire is a hill called Milk Hill, which is near Pewsey. So I just put it out on social media. Would anybody like to join me on a nice 3-mile walk with a pub lunch at the end? So we can stand on the top of, or as near to the top of Milk Hill as we can for 12:30 p.m, which was Junko's summit time. So my 84-year-old mum is coming with me. And my dog Monty and a few other friends, and fellow Everest summiteer Becky Bellworthy with her family as well. So that's going to be our Junko journey today.
Oh, I love that. And Tori, what have you got planned?
Well, I'm going to have to get my Junko journey in at a slightly later date, but I thought it would be cool to look up which mountains in Wales had a kind of female connection. So at some point in 2025, and this just goes to show, let's celebrate Junko all year, as well as on the 16th. I want to get up to the Llŷn Peninsula to climb Carn Fadran, Mother Mountain, and there's also Moel Famau, another Mother Mountain in Flintshire. So there's two ideas for people if they're close by in North Wales to get out. But obviously any high point, I'm sure you would agree, would be a great place to go to celebrate Junko.
Absolutely. And Rosemary, what about you?
Well, I thought this was an opportunity to perhaps get a little bit out of my comfort zone, because that's what Junko did and how she inspires us. So I am going to go to the highest point in my town, which is Islington, in time for sunrise, because on several days during our expedition, we all got up to watch the sunrise. So I think it's kind of a tribute to the trip and something that'll get me out of bed nice and early.
Oh, absolutely love that.
And Sarah, what will you be doing today for your own Junko journey?
Oh, I'm working. I think my Junko journey will be, I'll actually, at the weekend, I'm going to be heading out to Molvama as part of a training hike, because I'm training for the GR10 in August. So I'm going to be walking up and down Molvama. But I will take a selfie from the top of Molvama using the hashtag #MyJunkoJourney as well to help promote and share.
Fantastic. And as Tori said, it's all year. So if you, like with you, you're working tomorrow, you will go and do your Junko journey at the weekend or whenever it is this year. So we encourage anybody to get out and go and find their own high place.
And I'd love to get from you, well, from all of you, I suppose your final words of advice for other women out there who do want to live life on their own terms, who want to get outside, who want to climb mountains, who want to, pursue their passions, go against the norm. What advice would you like to share?
Words of advice, something that I have plastered in certain places is, life is not a rehearsal. This is it. If you want to do it, you can do it, because as we've learned from Junko, who against all odds achieved Everest, 7 summits, changing the views of women in Japan, you can do it. The universe will help you. And you will find as soon as you put yourself out there, things start happening so that you can achieve your goals.
Thank you, Rosemary. Jo, what would you like to share?
I had an interesting conversation with one of the ladies on the expedition, and she said, "Oh, I feel like I'm doing this to prove that women can." And I'm quite a reframer of various things that, in order for it to work for me, so I suggested, the way that I look at it is that I'm doing stuff to show that we are doing it, not that we can do it. That we are doing it, because a lot of it is, if you see people like you doing stuff, you're like, oh, well, maybe, I could go and do that myself. So I think very much for me, it's showing that we are doing stuff and it is possible, and that by showing up, which is what Junko did all the time, you can achieve great things. And there's a lovely Japanese saying called ganbate, which is do your best. And I think for us on our expedition and everything that I try and achieve, as long as I know that I'm doing my best, then I'm happy with that.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Jo. Brilliant phrase. And Tori, final words of advice from you. What would you like to share?
I think that over the years, there's been a kind of image of what a mountaineer looks like or should look like. And I want to say to anyone listening, if you want to get into the mountains, then you can do it. Junko was, she wrote in her book, she was always puzzled by people's obsession with the physical appearance of a mountaineer and at people's inability to dig deeper in their inquiries about mountaineering. And we don't have to conform to that stereotypical view. There are thousands of different ways to go into the mountains, to enjoy the mountains, wherever you're from. And it's about making sure people feel welcome in the mountains for me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jo, Tori, and Rosemary, for coming back on the Tough Girl podcast to share more about Junko and her 50th anniversary, and for inspiring women to get out there to do all the things. And best of luck, Tori, with First Females. I will be sharing First Females with you all through my social media. It's been such an inspiring conversation, and I can't wait to inspire the next generation of women and girls. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah. That was really great.
Hey, tribe. I really hope you enjoyed that special episode with Rosemary, Tori, and Jo. Everything that we have talked about today will be available in the show notes at toughgirlchallenges.com. So please do go and check it out. I'd also highly encourage you to listen to the individual episodes that I've recorded with Rosemary, Jo, and Tori. I think you'll really enjoy learning more about their backstories and what they've done for women in the world of adventure. On the Tough Girl website as well, there is a dedicated resources page specifically in regard to Mount Everest, talking about the pioneering women of Everest. I've interviewed maybe about 30 women who have shared their own individual story of climbing Mount Everest. And throughout the month of May, I've been sharing those episodes on my Instagram at Tough Girl Challenges. But today is a special day, like we've talked about during the podcast. The 16th of May is a significant date because that is when Junko Tabei of Japan became the first woman to summit Mount Everest. She has paved the way for generations of female climbers. And I love that Tori is highlighting this as well with her new podcast, First Females, a podcast to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the first female ascent of Mount Everest. This is available to listen on Spotify. I'll include the links in the show notes. But here is a little clip for you to enjoy.
In 1975, Japanese mountaineer Junko Tabei became the first woman in the world to climb to the summit of Mount Everest. Over the past 50 years, approximately 900 women have followed in her footsteps, defying cultural and physical barriers to reach the top of the world. My name is Tori James. I'm the first Welsh woman to climb Mount Everest, and I'm on a mission to shine a spotlight on this little-known but incredible woman and celebrate this 50th anniversary milestone by sharing stories from women around the globe who have also reached the summit of the world's highest peak. Welcome to the First Females podcast. Croeso, as we say in Wales.
What a great little taster. I am so excited to listen. Please do go and show some support to Tori and the incredible work that she's putting in to First Females. Thank you again for listening to the Tough Girl podcast. Thank you for all of your support. If you'd like to support the work that I'm doing and support my mission to increase the amount of female role models in the media, especially in relation to adventure and physical challenges, then please do visit Patreon, patreon.com/Tough Girl podcast. Please do tell your friends about today's special date. Share the stories of women doing epic and awesome challenges. And I'd love to know what adventures and challenges you've got planned for the future. Send me an email, sarah@toughgirlchallenges.com. Thank you so much for listening. All that's left for me to say is, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, give it your all, give it 110%, get after it, go for it, believe in yourself because I believe in you. Take care, lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon.